When you envision pirates pillaging the high seas, you probably think of them as one particular gender. But hold on a second, as there were plenty of women pirates as well, and they have some deeply fascinating stories. These are the most notorious female pirates in history. As regent of the Ardeaean kingdom in the 3rd century BCE, Teuta of Illyria maintained a serious pirate fleet from her center of power, as reported by the book Pirate Women. It was all in the service of a quest to enrich her kingdom and its people. She commanded her nation's pirates to plunder settlements both by land and by sea, even hitting cities and states that were supposed to be friendly to Illyria. It is said that Teuta wasn't content to just command pirates from the throne, as she also wanted to take part in the action herself. Although it's worth noting that much of the information we have about Teuta comes from the Romans, who weren't exactly friendly with the Illyrians. According to the book Battle Cries and Lullabies, Rome was provoked into action when Teuta's pirates attacked Roman vessels. It probably didn't help that when earlier Roman ambassadors asked her to stop, she basically responded that it was her people's custom to loot and pillage. Going after Rome pretty much spelled the end for the Ardeaean kingdom, though it took over a decade and multiple battles to finally put down the pirate menace established by Teuta. Chinese pirate Cheng I Sao first came to prominence around 1795. Most accounts maintain that she was originally a sex worker who married a pirate and accompanied her husband on his plundering expedition. According to Atlas Obscura, her husband specifically sought her out because she had a reputation as a shrewd businesswoman who knew how to gain power and intimidate people who contracted her services. Cheng I Sao translates to Cheng I's wife, which means that we don't have the actual name of one of the most notable pirates in history. After her husband died in 1807, she quickly moved to secure the support of key pirate chiefs and maintain control over thousands of ships that carried up to 80,000 pirates. She also implemented a strict code of conduct, with the death penalty applied for offenses like deserting, looting from the pirate treasury, or sexually assaulting women. Perhaps the most astonishing part of Cheng I Sao's story is that she retired peacefully. Around 1810, she negotiated with Chinese officials to not only give her a fleet of ships and the go-ahead to work as a legitimate businesswoman, but to grant all her pirates clemency and even give them government jobs if they wished.
I command over 80,000 pirates and 1,200 ships with an iron fist.
Born in Ireland around 1698, Anne Bonny was active in the Caribbean during the 18th century. Though her time in the spotlight was relatively short, she made such an impression that we're still talking about her centuries later. Bonny was the daughter of the lawyer William Cormac and his servant Mary Brennan. Cut off by his wife, William took Mary and Anne to the British colony of Carolina, where he appears to have comfortably established himself as a businessman. Anne was therefore the daughter of a relatively privileged family, though her mother died when she was only 12. She eventually married a relatively small-time pirate named James Bonny. The pair moved to the Bahamas, where Anne began to take up with the local pirate community and Calico Jack Rackham in particular. Soon enough, she joined his crew and began working as a pirate herself. In 1720, Calico Jack's crew was caught, tried in Jamaica, and sentenced to hang. Anne reportedly revealed her gender and pled the belly, meaning she claimed that she was pregnant and thus couldn't be executed. A stay of execution was seemingly granted, but then Anne disappears from the historical record. Some assume that she gave birth and was then executed, while others maintain that she returned to her father in the Carolinas. Lest you think Anne Bonny was the only female pirate gallivanting around the Caribbean during the golden age of piracy, think again. She didn't even have to go farther than her own ship to find a fellow female pirate. The main source for both Anne Bonny's and Mary Read's tales comes from a single book entitled A General History of the Robberies and Murders of the Most Notorious Pirates, which was published in 1724. Read was originally a prisoner taken by Calico Jack Rackham, a pirate captain who'd taken up with Bonny. Mary had reportedly concealed herself as a man since she was a child, so she confided in Anne that she was actually a woman. The two became friends and eventually co-workers of sorts as Mary took up the pirate life as well. Like Anne, Mary was known to be as frightful as any of her male counterparts, as she cursed, slashed, shot, and plundered her way through various battles. But she was eventually captured along with the rest of Calico Jack's crew in 1720. Both Anne and Mary claimed to be pregnant in order to stave off their executions. Mary died the next year of illness, still imprisoned, while Anne may have been freed. Called the Lioness of Brittany, Jeanne de Clisson was a 14th century noblewoman who wasn't out for plunder or even fame. Instead, all she wanted was revenge. Jeanne was first drawn to piracy after her husband ran afoul of the French King Philip VI, who executed him on the assumption that Jeanne's husband was a traitor who had collaborated with the English. It's worth noting that Jeanne and her husband were powerful landholders in the region who may have posed a potential threat to the king's stability. Jeanne took exception to this. As the tales go, she assembled her own fleet of ships, and with the assistance of some of her sons, she took to attacking French vessels. It was said that her 3 ships were painted black and topped with red sails, which would have been a dramatic sight during the years that she menaced the seas. Some accounts even maintain that Jeanne was especially ruthless when encountering nobles, to the point that she beheaded any member of the French upper class who encountered her.
How is your head? You know,
Jeanne reportedly still somehow managed to retire with her own neck intact, marrying a new English husband in 1356. Where Jeanne de Clisson was a noblewoman who took up piracy as an act of revenge, Lady Mary Killigrew was a noblewoman who became a pirate out of pure greed. Born sometime before 1525, she reportedly operated a pirate business out of her estate in Cornwall, in southwestern Britain, according to the book Daring Pirate Women. With its rocky coasts and dramatic weather, Cornwall was a picture-perfect setting to take advantage of floundering ships and unsuspecting merchants. It's said that Lady Mary would allow ships to dock near her lands, invite the captain to dinner, and then raid his ships. Some reports maintain that she herself would grab a sword and join in the assault. Lady Mary eventually ran into trouble after raiding a Spanish ship that landed near her castle. After killing many of the sailors and persuading the local magistrate, who was her own son, to look the other way, she may have thought she was in the clear. But the surviving crew eventually made it to London and the Spanish ambassador, who took up the cause and threatened diplomatic upset. Though sentenced to death, Lady Mary received a pardon from Queen Elizabeth I, apparently hastened along by a generous bribe from the Killigrews.
I like bribes.
Grace O'Malley wasn't just some grubby sea dog. Rather, she was the head of a powerful Irish clan and a pretty well-educated woman for her era. Her family were traders who occasionally dabbled in a bit of pirating. Born around 1530, young Grace reportedly longed to join her father at sea, but was told that her long hair would get in the way. Instead of getting discouraged, she chopped her hair off, calling her father's bluff and gaining a spot on board the ship. O'Malley married a nobleman and then became even more involved in piracy. After her husband's death, she defended the family castle and gained a reputation for her fearsomeness. This kicked off her real career as a pirate, as she now commanded her husband's forces, using them to turn a serious profit. O'Malley reportedly eventually grew so notable that she met with Queen Elizabeth I, with whom she bargained over land rights while speaking in Latin. Elizabeth cheated Grace somewhat, though, so she eventually returned to fighting against the English when they invaded Ireland. Most accounts maintain that she died in 1603 and was peacefully buried at an Irish abbey. Charlotte Badger was born in England in 1778, and then in 1796 she was convicted of small-time theft from her employer. In another era, she would have been simply fired or otherwise disciplined, but instead she was sentenced to transportation. This meant that she was to serve out a 7-year term in the British prison colony of Australia. It was certainly better than being hanged, but being forcefully sent thousands of miles from the only home she'd ever known probably didn't sound much better. For many transported criminals, they would make the trip to Australia, serve out their time, and then either remain or go back to Britain. But in Charlotte's case, she conspired with other sailors to mutiny against the ship's captain. But at this point, the historical record becomes awfully muddled. It's not clear how much of a pirate Charlotte became, or whether she really traveled all the way to New Zealand and got killed by Maori people. It's possible that she made it to the penal colony of New South Wales, minded her own business, and then returned to her homeland. No matter what actually happened, the story of Australian pirate Charlotte Badger remains compelling. Possibly the first American-born woman to become a pirate, Rachel Wall was born Rachel Schmidt in Pennsylvania around 1760. She left home at age 16 and moved closer to the sea, where she took up with a man named George Wall. She married him and then traveled to Philadelphia, New York, and then ultimately Boston. George eventually left Rachel in Boston, where she became a servant in wealthy homes. Things seemed good for a while, but then George returned and encouraged her to join him as a pirate. She agreed, and in 1781, they and a small group of fellow pirates stole a boat and began striking ships off the New Hampshire coast. The next year, George and much of the rest of the crew died when the ship capsized. Rachel, however, survived. She went back to Boston, but she wasn't prepared to stop being a pirate, though it appears that she was largely land-based from this point on. The Massachusetts Historical Society reports that she began stealing from ships docked in Boston Harbor. She eventually resorted to robbing people directly. She was caught for this and sentenced to hang. Revenge seems to be a pretty consistent theme for female pirates, regardless of time or place. One of the earliest accounts of an avenging woman pirate comes from the 5th or 6th century in what is now around modern Norway. According to the book Daring Pirate Women, Rusla, a high-ranking lady, started life as the well-situated sister of King Teisundus. But trouble arose when Teisundus was defeated by the nearby Danish king Amund. Rusla and her sister weren't going to take that sitting down, so she launched a force of pirate ships meant to take down Amund and therefore avenge some of the lost family honor. According to the book A Pirate's Life for She, Rusla even attempted to invade her enemy's kingdom, though she and her forces were repelled. As she fell back, she encountered none other than Tesundus, who she heartily resented for losing his crown. She took his ships, but didn't kill him. As recounted in the 12th century chronicle Gesta Danorum, Tesundus paid back the favor by teaming up with Amund and murdering Rusla, proving that vengeance ran in the family. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.